It's been 2 seasons of fantastic racing, and the first 4 weeks of season number 3 have been absolutely fantastic. But as we near the halfway point of this one, well, we come to exciting tracks for sure. An iconic road Atlanta this week, and now in what is probably the most iconic circuit in all of Japan, this is the Skip Barber Racing School Championship, live from Suzuka for round number 5. Fantastic race last week out, Alvin, at Road Atlanta. We saw immense amounts of slipstreaming due to the nature of the circuit that we were on, and I think we're going to see even more of it today at what is probably the most iconic circuit in the land of the rising sun.
Not only we're gonna see a lot of slipstreaming here, but also given the nature of the track that we have in here today, pretty much as soon as you get off the start finish line and you get into those SS and you get into Dagner, it's pretty much we'll be trying to follow the leader. I think we're gonna see a race today where you have to be precision perfect, because the slightest mistake that you make, and I'm pretty sure, Randy, one position is the least that you will lose.
Very possibly is the case there. And looking at the points, just as we're now, as of this race, going to be 5 weeks in, Adi Cobo Lopez comes in with an 83-point lead over Andrew Picario. Adi Cobo Lopez currently holds the pole position by about a 10.5 over Johnny Gundy. And there's a couple names here in this race, Alvin, that we haven't seen most of the season. Johnny Gundy being the notable one up there in P2, but you also have Andrew Picario, who we have seen, but second place in points. He currently sits third, but it's important to note 6/10 off Adi Cobo Lopez from pole.
And you know, if it was on the track that we were last week, that would be a problem. But here in Suzuka 6/10, given the length of the track, how big this is a track that if I go into the stats in here and I can get the whole thing here, it's a 5.81 kilometers. Sorry about that. So it is a really long track for these cars, and we're looking at a lap time at around 2 minutes 21 seconds. So it definitely is a long track for these cars. So that also means that long track few laps. So it will only be a 10-lap race, so very important for everybody to come in and make sure that they nail all those corners.
So I'm coughing, Alvin is stuttering, and Hugo, being Brazilian, is probably, well, failing at getting his WC GPS trophy into the country, to be honest. But qualifying, getting ready to come to an end here in about 60 seconds time. I'm right now watching the 9 of Andrew Picario, who's going to come to the end of his second lap. He needs to come up with a vast improvement to close the gap to that pole sitter, and he does a good job of it with a 21.583. He isn't going to pick up any spots based on that here. Alvin, we do have a new pole sitter, and that's Johnny Gundy, and he blitzes Adi Cobo Lopez by nearly 0.3 of a second, but Adi Cobo Lopez is going to come through the Casio Triangle on his second lap right now. Is he going to improve in this Skip Barber Formula 2000 car? Down the front straightaway he comes, trying to take the shortest path he can. Across the stripe he will come. He will do a 221.0, so he will go back to the pole position. So everyone improving here on their second lap.
Definitely great work there by Adi Cobo Lopez, and I think for Johnny Gundy here today, I think this is more of a trying to scout the field, see what the competition really looks like, because for him, he is locked into the final shootout. So maybe trying to come here, scout the competition, see how it looks, and try to have some fun as well.
So with that, we got 2 minutes till this race is due to start. So let's go down your starting grid for the 5th round of the Skip Barber Racing School Championship. Iberica Racing Team driver Adi Cobo Lopez continues his domination in qualifying with a lap time of 2 minutes 21.044. Johnny Gundy to the 2 minutes 21.123. By far the quickest drivers in qualifying. Greg Seitz is going to roll off third with Andrew Picario on the outside of him on row number 2. They are 0.3 of a second plus outside of that front row in qualifying. Jamie Simone and Juan Dalme Torres will make up row number 3, with Twan, Tron, and Justin Titton rolling off from the fourth row. Francois Bollier and Julia Prost Albert make up row number 5, with Christian Capenga and Carl Dronke on row 6. Mike McCormick, and Fahim Antonitis on row 7, with Brian Sutton and Edwin Valerino rounding out the 16-car field today. 17 corners, a lot of straights, but a lot of downforce needed around this place, Alvin. What do you predict?
Pretty sure the race will be pretty much kind of like a repeat of what we saw last week at Road Atlanta. It should be trying to more a little bit of follow the leader. And I know that when it comes to predicting the winner, I've been 2 for 4. So today I think I'm gonna go with a different pick. I'm going with Johnny Gindy.
A different pick, and you say Johnny Gindy. That's bold. I think it's bold calling him a different pick more so than it is picking him. But that said, I believe we have all drivers on the grid, and I hear them starting to build the revs in these little Formula 2000 cars. Lights are on. The lights shut off. We are green from Suzuka. It's a good start from Adicobo Lopez, but a slightly better one from Johnny Gindy. And they're going to run off into corners number 1 and 2. Adicobo Lopez going to defend the inside, but Johnny Gindy not quite having the run to make a move regardless. Fight is on for third. Precario fights with sights through the outside of the first 2 corners. Precario will get back in line as they come to the exit. And now, through the most iconic section of this racetrack, in my opinion, the S is at Suzuka. It's what gives this circuit the flowing nature it's known for. Left, right. You're having to bind all of these corners together, treat it as one complex rather than individual corners. And Adicobo Lopez trying to build the gap as the entire field is side by side through this technical S's section, Alvin, as they begin to run up and over Dunlop towards the Degners.
Now coming here towards Degners, and Andrew Mercado trying to put the pressure here on Greg's side. Let's see, but he decides to stay single file. Now this is the part. This is a very important place here, because now you come into where I would say one of the most technical parts here. You come into the hairpin, but very important. You gotta get a good exit from the hairpin, because once you get into 200R, yes, it is not a straightaway, but it's full throttle.
It is, it is sort of just an everlasting and constant corner. You just basically put about 5 to 10 degrees of wheel input into the car, and you just sort of keep it there, and the car should glide through this section of the racetrack. We're still not seeing much in terms of side-by-side action. All cars who started this race currently still run in the order they started. There's a couple change of position. For the most part, everyone runs as they started. Through spoon curves they come, and now down the long back straightaway on the run into 130R. This is, if there's anything more iconic than the S of Suzuka, it's going to be the run into 130R. Johnny Gindy is going to be working the slipstream. Will he throw a move on that number 1 Iberica Racing Team driver of Adicobo Lopez? No, he won't. He lifts out of it, and they all stay single file, not quite flat in these little Formula 2000 cars, not quite enough downforce. But now into the first hard braking zone really of the lap. Hard into the Casio triangle they come, and everyone again still single file until you get deep in your field. First side by side, as I believe, between Yola Pro Albert and Carl Dronke, but for the most part, Alvin, a very single file lap here at Suzuka. Not a lot of fighting happening just yet.
And I am kind of surprised that this has been pretty much all single file throughout the first lap. I was expecting a little bit more action. Well, I say more action, and Johnny Gindy tries to go to the outside of Adicobo Lopez, and he gets that position. So Johnny Gindy here into the lead, and I think this is where we are going to see most of the moves in here with Skip Barber today, going into turn number 1.
Going into turn 1 is going to be an awesome opportunity, because it's important to note for these cars, in a lot of the faster cars, be it, the open wheelers, be it the GT stuff, you really need to just have an awesome run off the Casio triangle to have any hope of getting that job done into that first corner. But here, Alvin, the run you get off that last chicane, unless it's a terrible one, it's more or less irrelevant, because you're only going to be hitting about 130 miles an hour in these cars, which compared to, you think about most of the vehicles that race at this racetrack, they're hitting 170, 180. 40, 50 mile an hour difference. That is quite a lot. And in terms of the amount of time you spend going down that straight, the amount of time you spend in that slipstream, you just get an extra 6-7 seconds to build up that momentum and make the move. And it's pretty much almost a guarantee that if you're leading the train here, you're going to be second in line going into corners number 1 and 2, on regardless of what the lap may be.
And that is one of the most dangerous things that you just mentioned, Randy. You go into turn number 1 and you may be leading, but if you keep going side by side, and like I mentioned, if you make a mistake, and we see pretty much this is a train of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars. I think we can go all the way to 9 cars. And if you make a mistake going into those S's, can be shuffled all the way to the back of the train if you're not careful.
Another slipstreaming area of the racetrack, though. Let's see if Adecobo Lopez is more aggressive than Johnny Gundy was. He looks to the inside of 130R, but notably he lifts off the throttle. So the number 1 machine, he's sort of harassing the mirror of that number 2 driver, but not quite being confident enough to make the move, and I think for good reason. That's a very, very scary place to make passes. Down in the Casio Triangle now for the second of 10 circuits of this lap, and you see number 2, Johnny Gundy. He's being very liberal with the track limits here, trying to open up a gap. He was pushed all over the AstroTurf on the exit of Degner 2 as well. And of course, like I just said, the exit of that Casio Triangle down the front straight, they come once again. Adecobo Lopez has the run with the slipstream. Will he look down to the inside of Johnny Gundy? He doesn't quite get there. So actually, instantly enough, Alvin, Johnny Gundy does a good job in the number 1 of Lopez. Very close under the rear wing between 1 and 2. Almost contact there between your 2 leaders. But Gundy proves you can retain the race lead down the front straight.
And I have to say that the fact that Johnny Gundy took that little bit more of those track limits, I think that was the difference maker here, because he got a good run compared to Adecobo Lopez coming out of the Casio Triangle. So I think that is pretty much what saved him in trying to retain the lead. But now Adecobo Lopez takes a look here onto the right side, but I think it was more of a look. I don't think he's really trying to make a move. It's kind of risky to get a move here going into Degner, but it's risky, but not impossible.
It's sort of one of the nature of that long left-hander at Dunlop, isn't it? Because you come up from the S's and it sort of flattens out, and everyone sort of has their own little line they take through there. There isn't necessarily a quote-unquote fastest way through there. Some people, they like to hang it, right up against the white line on the left. Other people like to go, might take the radius of the corner off, but is overall straighter, but is a slightly longer version of it. And same down through here through 200R on the run into Spoon. Everyone takes that long, mostly straightaway S section of the racetrack a little bit differently than everyone else, and I think that's what we saw there from Adecobo Lopez. That slight peek he took on Johnny Gundy on the run to the Degner. I don't think, like you said, there's almost no way you can get the run through there, especially on the outside. There's always going to have to be something of different lines. That said, Justin Titton looking in the back, had a slight mistake exiting Spoon. He's already dropped 1 position to Francois Bollier, looking to drop another to Julia Pearls Albert as well on the run down into 130R, and Albert gets that job done. So 1 little mistake from Titton, dropping back just out inside the top 10.
And as we're looking right at the midfield, Adecobo Lopez takes the lead coming into the backstretch into 130R. It kind of looks like Johnny Gundy got a bad run, but he kind of really didn't want to really push the envelope here and really just let Adecobo Lopez just take the lead. And well, I said that, and Adecobo Lopez now under attack from Johnny Gundy here, battle for the lead coming into turn number 1. Is it a Senna process? No, pretty much Adecobo Lopez gets the battle, but now, like I said, Johnny Gundy just got hung up driving. Now Greg Sykes slots into P2, but well, not for long. Johnny Gundy and Greg Sykes keep battling here for P2.
So fighting for P2 are the 2 teammates, and this is a little bit silly in my opinion. This is the one area on the racetrack you cannot go side by side, and they're looking to do it through the entire sector. And look at the gap that the number 1 machine of Adecobo Lopez has just been gifted here as they work themselves now up through Dunlop, and Greg Sykes has officially slotted himself into the 2nd position. Johnny Gundy gets cycled back to 3rd, but that's one of the things we were talking about last week, Alvin, and I think it rings true just as much today. The long straightaways at this circuit, because it's designed for those Formula 1 cars that are doing close to 200 plus miles an hour frequently over this lap, you cannot, in the technical section of the racetrack, fight and let the race leader simply open up a gap, especially that person who has routinely been 1 to 2 tenths quicker in qualifying every single time this season. You can't let Adecobo Lopez get the chance to open a gap, because every time he's gotten that chance, he's done it.
And definitely, driver's instinct is to fight for every position that they can, but you also have to use common sense. And here at Suzuka, the SS, that is the last part of the track that you really want to be side by side. And Johnny Gundy gets a little bit sideways here, coming into Spoon, so he is really pushing it.
Pushing it indeed as they work themselves down towards 130R for the 4th time. Going to be lap number 5 of 10, so halfway after the next couple of laps. And just looking at the speeds, Greg Seitz has a slight slipstream, but maybe not enough on Adecobo Lopez. They're jockeying for position in P3 and 4. That's Gundi and Precario as they work themselves through 130R. Precario has a run on the exit of 130R, but he gives it up. They're going to stay single file on the run down into the Casio Triangle. Seitz has done a good job to reel that gap back in just a little bit, and I think they might be somewhat lucky here, Alvin. I think that Seitz is going to have just enough of a sniff of that draft. I think he had one just enough down the back straight and just enough here that this lead's going to be erased, but they were very, very close to opening that gap up just enough to where Seitz would have had no slipstream at all. And indeed, the slipstream comes through, and Greg Seitz all the way to the back of that number 1 machine on the run through corners number 1 and 2.
And I think the fact that Greg Seitz was able to close the gap has to do with the fact that for these cars on this track, it is kind of high speed, so there is the slipstream is always so present for these cars. So little by little, he was able to close the gap, and I think that is what really helped him. Because otherwise, Randy, I gotta say, if it was a slower track, like let's say, well, there's not a track that comes to my mind right now. Sorry.
Phillip Island.
Well, Phillip Island, I think it's way too high speed. That the
Oran Park.
Oran Park, yeah, I think that'll be one track that definitely, if that was the gap, they wouldn't been able to, for sure, make it back.
Phillip Island is going to be interesting to watch next week, of course, and you are right, Alvin, it is fairly high speed. It'll be interesting to see though if there's enough high speed for the slipstream to play a part, but they work themselves into 200R, what is really the second high speed section of this lap for these little Formula 2000 cars. We have to take a look back at the race lead. Greg Seitz still tucked under the rear wing of that number 1 machine of Adecobo Lopez. Important to note, P2 and P3 opened up a little bit of a gap between one another. Johnny Gundy's lost a little bit of time, and there is a few tenths there. You see Johnny Gundy very, very loose on the entrance into Spoon, and he's going to hold up Andrew Precario immensely here. The number 2 machine has been slippery, slidey all race today, and fantastic driving by Gundy to hold on to that, but he's going to lose a lot of time to the 2 cars out in front of him. But will Greg Seitz bail him out? The 3 machine looks to the inside of Lopez down the back straightaway. Lopez is going to lift out of it. Seitz will inherit the race lead on the run into 130R. Through that left-hander they go, and now into the Casio Triangle. Will Lopez fight back on the inside of the Casio Triangle? No, he will not. Do the final chicane. They will come and begin and take us to the second half of this motor race. 5 laps down, 5 laps to go. We got an incident in the back. Got a car facing the wrong way. That's Francois Bollier in the Orion Skip Barber Formula 2000 car. Not sure who was involved here. He almost got into the back of Tuan Tron, had to check up, and then the car behind, that was Julia Albert, got into him as well. And well, once he got that little tap, he was pretty much a passenger. The number 8 machine also missing a front wing.
It definitely is really unfortunate for Francois Bollier being caught in that incident. And that is one of those that once you get into the Casio Triangle, if you are that close, yeah, those things can happen. So you really have to be careful, and you really have to time those things. And well, Adecobo Lopez back in the lead, so presumably pretty much it was all done in the front straight. I think that was really expected. But Randy, now is when we are starting to see where everybody's standing, and in terms of how the race is going to unfold. We are pretty much only, if I got my timer here correctly, we only have 5 laps to go. So now, yeah, there's gonna be some pressure here and there, and Adecobo Lopez, I think he is gonna start defending that position really hard now.
It's got to be the chess match, though, because you have to think, Alvin, think back a few weeks ago, what we saw from Adecobo Lopez from VIR. We're on the final lap. He checked up on the entry to the back straightaway to let that second place car through, got back in the slipstream, and then got the job done at the end of the same straightaway. So, for Adecobo Lopez, it's a huge question mark on what he's going to do, and he is impossible to predict. Into Spoon they come now for the 6th time, and you see these drivers all fighting a little bit of loose condition into that part of the racetrack. Johnny Gundy, though, much more calm and tame compared to last time through. He basically had full opposite lock to keep that car onto the black stuff. Down the back straight, they will come, and Greg Seitz looks keen to have another look on Adecobo Lopez. He swings to driver's right. Johnny Gundy wants to follow him through and cycle the Iberica Racing Team driver to 3rd, but the number 1 machine of Lopez squeezes him side by side through 130R for the first time today. The 2 machine of Gundy is strong on the outside. He has the preferred lane into the Casio triangle, but the one to Lopez, a slightly better run and a little bit later on the brakes. He gets to the apex expertly in the one machine. Fantastic driving there from Lopez to keep that line and not lose any time and not lose that position to Gundy. But the tables have somewhat turned here, Alvin. Side-by-side racing earlier on, a handful of laps ago, gave Lopez a lead. Now side-by-side racing has given Greg Seitz a lead as Precario has his hands full with Juan Torres.
And I think that was a little bit of a mistake made by Areco Lopez trying to let Greg Seitz. He thought that, as the previous laps, that he was the only car behind him. He wasn't expecting Johnny Gundy to be behind him. That was he almost risked to being shuffled back all the way to third place. So I think that is kind of like a wake-up call for Areco Lopez. I don't think he's gonna make that same mistake twice.
I think you're right. I don't think it's going to be the same mistake twice whatsoever. And that said, the gap is already closed back down to Greg Seitz. So Adecobo Lopez showing the speed he has, and he did that through the first sector in the S's, Alvin. So that number one machine of Lopez is hooked up. He didn't really need much of the straight. Yeah, he would have had some help from the front straight, slipstream down the front straight, but he made up the bulk of this time through 1 and 2 and to the S as they work themselves now down into the hairpin. Going to be 3 laps to go at the line, and now really is the situation of where do you want to be for that final lap? Do you want to be running first? Do you want to be that lead car? Because keep in mind there are several different high-speed sections of the racetrack. You have the front straight, you have this section, this area of the racetrack right here is long enough that you will get some system effect, and of course you get the back straightaway, and then you get the run back down to the start-finish line. Where do you want to be? It's possible that being third or fourth is the ideal place to be to start this final lap.
It is really unpredictable, but I'll tell you, you want to be leading going into the Casio Triangle, because the start-finish straight is, as soon as you get out of turn number 17, that's where the start-finish line is. It's not down the front straight. It's as soon as you get up turn 17 and Johnny Gundy gets a look here into the inside of Areco Lopez. And I think they're going 3 wide into 130R.
3 wide for your race lead as they work through 130 yards. They're approaching 3 laps to go. Adecobo Lopez almost 3 wide again on the run to the Casio Triangle, and I think over-aggressiveness is about to kick in right now. Teammates side by side, and they're 2x2 through the Casio Triangle here. Top 5 all racing for the win. Johnny Gundy's going to have the lead for now. Adecobo Lopez cycles back to the 4th spot. Juan Torres, whose name I didn't know how to pronounce, but I might quickly have to learn it here. He's looking aggressive, as well as Andrew Ricario. He wants P2 as Seitz goes for the race lead. Almost 3 wide once again. Torres looks to the inside of Lopez, cycles him back into P number 5. 2x2 again through the first 2 corners of the racetrack here in the 3 of Seitz. Is going to have to stay relegated to that 3rd spot, but Torres, fantastic driving from him. He was 5th at the line, and he currently noses ahead of Angel Precario for 3rd. Also important to note that Tuan Tron and Jamie Sumane are both lurking in the back, and this has just turned into a 7-car train. The 2 teammates, though, of Gundy and Seitz, have stretched out a bit of a lead. Business, Alvin, has picked up.
Business has picked up indeed, and that's what all the fighting can get you from a 5-car battle. Well, it was actually a 3-car battle, and now it's a 7-car battle. And if they keep fighting, Randy, I gotta say, this is definitely gonna be a fantastic finish. But Arecobo Lopez shuffled all the way back to 5th place, so that kind of shows you, if you let someone go by and you're not paying attention, you saw all that train. Now he shuffled all the way back into 5th. And Randy, I have to say, the run to the lead, if he wants to win this race, is not going to be easy.
No, it's not. It's not going to be easy to get yourself to the front of this field, especially now as we're inside of 2 and some change laps to go, roughly 2.5. It's all going to be on who's the most aggressive, I think, at this point. Yeah, you're going to need to get a good run. Yeah, you're going to need to hit your apexes, but you're going to have to be willing to shove the nose when that driver in front of you doesn't think you're going to do it. Johnny Gundy fights the overseer again through the entry of Spoon. Angel Precario comes off that middle curb on the outside a little bit off, and he fought the overseer as well. But now, down the back straight they come. The top 5 have opened up a gap over 6th and 7th there. As side by side for 2nd go Andrew Precario and Adecobo Lopez. Precario gives it up, doesn't want to fight for it. The 2 teammates, though, they stay single file as well, as for the most part. And Torres, he gets himself cycled back up into 3rd, but Lopez wants to try to get to that 3rd spot, not quite able to do it just yet. Into the Casio Triangle, 2 laps to go. this time by for the race win. Johnny Gundy was patient with his teammate down the back straight. He will not be this time, and I think Greg Seitz, he will only just make it to the finish line with that race lead by 0.03 of a second, but he will not lead at the line into turn number 1 as Johnny Gundy picks up that race lead. Torres is now tucked under the rear wing of Seitz, and Lopez is there following along. You still have Precario, Tron, and Simone. They've dropped off a little bit, Alvin, but they're still more than close enough to be relevant.
Close to this fight indeed. And some quick news here. We got the car number 15, Carl Drunke. It got a blown engine, and well, Randy, that kind of brings the subject. This is 2 laps to go, and these cars have been fighting really hard and staying in the slipstream. Can we see one of these cars get a blown engine? And that'll be really heartbreaking. Oh my God, Alex Lopez gets into the back of Jaume Dalmases, and that may allow him to get a run, but no, Jaume Dalmases definitely get a run here for P3.
A slight touch there from the number 1 Iberia Racing team drivers. They work themselves through the Degners here for the penultimate time. Now on the run up into the hairpin. Johnny Gundy has been absolutely picture perfect. He's pushed wide a couple places, but he's placed himself well. He's had good racecraft to get himself to this race lead. It's number 3 of Greg Seitz. Same story from him. Started 3rd, currently runs 2nd. And Torres, talk about big mover here. He's up 3 spots from 6th. With a chance to win this race. Coming now through 200R on the run into Spoon, Alvin. This is where the chess match has to start. If you're going to start thinking about where you're placing yourself on the last lap, you need to put yourself in that position right here, right now, because the last lap, it's getting ready to start as they now exit Spoon. Johnny Gundy a little bit wide. The 3 machine, though, going to get a good run. It's actually the 2 machine. Pushes on the exit. I think we're going to see a change of position here on the run into 130R.
For Johnny Gundy, I think he's not gonna really fight it much because it really doesn't matter now. What matters is where you are once you start the final lap onto the front straight. I think that's where Johnny Gundy will really get to fight for the lead, and will be really interesting for Greg Seitz what he tries to do. And to me, it kind of seems like once they come back into the backstretch, they're not gonna be that easy. If they are side by side, they are gonna fight it because they know whoever comes out in front, out of the Casio triangle, will be the winner.
So last lap, white flag in the air, and the race lead is already changing. Johnny Gundy goes back to the point as everyone else is going to stay line astern. Juan Torres still cycles in 3rd. Adecobo Lopez 4th, but Torres looks up the inside of the 3 of Greg Seitz to the exit of corner number 2. He wants the 2nd spot, but the door gets shut. He falls back into line. That's going to open up a slight gap to Johnny Gundy. That might have some pretty serious consequences. So through the S's they come, through the right-hander, and now they go up the hill towards Dunlop through the left. Long left-hander here. It almost just pushes 180 degrees. One of the longest hairpins you've ever seen in your life as Johnny Gundy still leads the way by a couple tenths. Adecobo Lopez now gets aggressive, fighting with the 13 machine of Torres into the first Degner. Doesn't make it stick, but Torres pushes wide. That's going to close up the gap for Lopez, but didn't open up the gap to the top 2 in front. Torres pushes wide. Lopez will surely have a look on the run down into the hairpin. He looks to the outside line here at the hairpin. Hard on the brakes for the 3rd spot. Round the outside goes the Iberia Racing team driver. A slight touch on the front wheels as they work themselves down this 2nd straightaway here at 200R. The gap from the top 2 has grown because of that scrap for 2nd, and for 3rd. Lopez has P3. Precario, he wants to cycle himself through now as the 1 machine of Lopez needs to figure out who to defend. He cuts off Torres from diving up the inside, leaves them 2 to fight it out side by side through Spoon for 4th. Little bit of a tap, that's going to cycle Precario back into the 5th position, and now they got themselves pretty much line astern. The teammates are well clear down the back straightaway though. Gundy from Seitz, they're going to be the ones who decide it, and it's going to be decided right here. Seitz has the run down the back straightaway into 130R, through into the left-hander, a bit of a touch. The 2 of Johnny Gundy gets loose, and he does a good job to recover. That might give the 3 of Seitz more than enough space to be safe on the run down into the line. Adecobo Lopez still holds the 3rd spot from Torres. They work themselves through the Casio triangle for the final time. Greg Seitz, picture perfect with a slight touch through 130R. He is going to win here at Suzuka. Johnny Gundy 2nd, side by side for 3rd between Lopez and Torres. Lopez is going to close it out as Andrew Precario will take 6th. Tuan Tron got himself back up to his starting position, P number 7.
Wow, that was a fantastic finish, I do have to say. But something I will definitely have to stop doing is starting to pick who's gonna be the race winner, because so far I am 2 for 5. So sorry for Johnny Gindy for picking you, and so you came up in second place. My apologies for that. But regardless of that, I gotta say the whole race overall, it was fantastic from top to bottom, from the drop of the green flag all the way to the checkered flag. And that battle that we got with 3 laps to go, that battle for P1 all the way to P7, I gotta say, Randy, that was one of the highlights of this race.
So with that, we're going to go down your post-race results here after 10 laps of running around Suzuka. About a month back, this circuit kicked off the world's fastest gamer competition. We saw a great race in that one, and we saw a great race in this one today. Greg Seitz took away a big win. He's been running in this season, running in this competition since the first season of it. And now I think this might be the first time or second time that we've seen him scratch out a win. Johnny Gundy will finish P2. Ade Cobo Lopez from pole will fall back into third. Juan Dalmasis Torres will finish fourth, with Yame Sumane rounding out your top 5. Andrew Barcario will finish 6th, Tuan Tron 7th, Justin Tipton 8th, Julia Perez Albert 9th, and Christian Capanga will round out your top 10. Edwin Valerino will finish 11th, Mike McCormick 12th, Francois Bolian 13th. Carl Dronke, after popping his motor, will finish 14th. And then 2 drivers who did not start this race, Fahim Antonitis and Brian Sutton, will round out the 16-car grid. Thank you all for tuning in to watch us here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. If you're not done yet, well, our Wednesday race nights are still not over just yet for this evening. Join us in a couple of moments' time as the Raven Graphics and ESP Contender Series goes to Charlotte for the Raven Graphic Boobs Rock 200 from Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you love just watching this championship, be sure to tune in 7 days' time, as we will be going to Australia, and the halfway point of this championship will be marked at Phillip Island. Until then, see you next time.